The massive transport ship Terra Nova descended through the purple clouds of Zephyria Prime. Inside the diplomatic cabin, Dr. Maya Chen checked her research equipment for the 10th time that morning. Her hands shook slightly as she secured the sample containers. This was humanity's first official contact with the Zephyrian Empire, and she was responsible for all the biological research materials. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Tom Rodriguez from the seat across from her. The xenobiologist had been studying alien life forms for 15 years, but even he seemed tense. Maya nodded. "The Zephyrians control 12 star systems. If we mess this up, Earth might never get another chance at an alliance." Ambassador Lisa Park walked over to them. "Remember, everyone follows protocol. The Empress Vela is known for being very formal. No sudden movements, no casual touching, and definitely no interrupting when she speaks." The ship shuddered as it touched down on the landing platform. Through the viewport, Maya could see the crystal spires of the royal city stretching into the sky. Everything on this planet seemed to be made of some kind of translucent blue material that caught the light of the twin suns. "Time to make history," Tom said as the airlock opened. The delegation stepped onto Zephyrian soil. The air felt different here, thinner but somehow energizing. Maya carried her sample case carefully as they walked across the platform toward a group of waiting aliens. The Zephyrians were tall and elegant, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Their features were sharp and angular but graceful. They wore flowing robes that moved like liquid in the gentle breeze. "Welcome to Zephyria Prime," said the lead alien in perfectly clear English. "I am Commander Nix of the Royal Guard. Her Imperial Majesty awaits you in the Grand Hall." The humans followed the guards through the city streets. Maya marveled at the architecture around them. Every building seemed to grow from the ground like a crystal formation. There were no harsh angles or rough surfaces anywhere. Citizens of the Empire watched them pass with curious but respectful expressions. The royal palace was even more impressive than the city. It rose from the center of the capital like a mountain of pure light. The walls were transparent in some places and opaque in others, creating patterns that shifted as they walked. "The Grand Hall is through here," Commander Nix explained as they entered the main building. Maya's sample case felt heavier with each step. She had spent months preparing these biological samples to show the Zephyrians what human science could offer. There were genetic markers, cellular cultures, and various biochemical compounds that might be useful for trade or research. The Grand Hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that it disappeared into shadows above them. Hundreds of Zephyrian nobles stood in perfect rows along the sides of the room. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat a throne that seemed to be carved from a single enormous crystal. Presenting Her Imperial Majesty, Empress Vela, ruler of the 12 systems, guardian of the crystal worlds, announced a court official. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The Empress was unlike anything she had ever seen. Vela stood nearly 7 feet tall, with the same pale blue skin as her subjects, but somehow more radiant. Her hair fell in silver waves to her shoulders, and her eyes were the color of deep space. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of starlight itself. But what struck Maya most was the Empress's bearing. Vela moved with absolute confidence and control. Every gesture was precise and graceful. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the vast hall without any apparent effort. "People of Earth," the Empress said, "you honor us with your presence. We welcome you to our realm, and hope this meeting will bring prosperity to both our peoples." Ambassador Park stepped forward and began the formal greeting ceremony. Maya tried to focus on the diplomatic words, but she found herself studying the Empress instead. There was something almost hypnotic about the way Vela carried herself. The alien ruler seemed to command not just respect, but the very air around her. The ceremony continued for nearly an hour. Different officials from both sides spoke about trade possibilities, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements. Maya waited for her turn to present the scientific materials. "And now," Ambassador Park said, "Dr. Maya Chen will demonstrate some of the biological research that Earth science has achieved." Maya's heart pounded as she walked forward across the polished crystal floor. Every eye in the hall was watching her. She could feel the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. She reached the center of the hall and opened her sample case. Inside were dozens of small containers, each labeled with careful scientific notation. She had practiced this presentation hundreds of times, but now her hands felt clumsy. "Your Majesty," Maya began, These samples represent various aspects of human biology and biochemistry. We hope they might provide insights that could benefit both our species." The Empress leaned forward slightly, showing genuine interest. "Please proceed with your demonstration." Maya lifted the first container, which held samples of human DNA. As she began to explain the structure and properties of human genetics, she felt her confidence returning. This was her field of expertise, and the scientific knowledge felt solid and reliable. But as she reached for the second container, disaster struck. The edge of her boot caught on an irregularity in the crystal floor. Maya stumbled forward, and the sample case flew from her hands. Time seemed to slow down as dozens of containers scattered across the floor. Some broke open, spilling their contents. Others rolled away in different directions. Maya fell to her knees, mortified beyond words. The hall fell completely silent. Maya could feel hundreds of alien eyes staring at her as she knelt among the scattered samples. She wanted to disappear into the crystal floor. Then, to her amazement, the Empress stepped down from her throne. Vela moved with the same graceful control as always, but there was something almost kind in her expression as she approached Maya. "Accidents happen," the Empress said gently. "Let me help you gather these." Vela knelt beside Maya and began collecting the scattered containers. As she reached for a broken sample tube, the Empress paused. A strange expression crossed her face, and she took a deeper breath. Maya realized what had happened. One of the broken containers had held samples of human perspiration, collected for biochemical analysis. The Empress had just inhaled a concentrated dose of human sweat. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. Then Maya noticed that the Empress's hands were trembling slightly as she held the sample tube. Vela's pupils dilated and her breathing became faster. "Your Majesty?" Commander Nix stepped forward with concern. "Are you well?" The Empress tried to stand, but her legs seemed unsteady. She gripped Maya's shoulder for support, and Maya could feel the alien woman's hand shaking. "I am fine," Vela said, but her voice sounded different, less controlled, more intense. "Just give me a moment." But the moment stretched on, and the Empress's condition seemed to worsen rather than improve. Her whole body was trembling now, and her eyes darted around the hall as if she was seeing everything with new clarity. "Something is wrong," one of the court physicians called out as he hurried forward. "Her Majesty's vital signs are elevated." Maya watched in horror as the Empress struggled to maintain her composure. Vela's breathing was rapid and shallow, and her hands clenched and unclenched involuntarily. Whatever was happening, it was clearly beyond the Empress's control. "Guards," Commander Nix shouted. "Secure the humans immediately." The royal guard surrounded Maya and the other humans with weapons drawn. The formal ceremony dissolved into chaos as courtiers whispered urgently among themselves. "Wait," Maya called out desperately. "I think I know what's happening." But the guards were already moving to restrain the human delegation. Tom Rodriguez managed to break free for a moment and rushed to Maya's side. "What did you figure out?" he asked quickly before the guards could stop him. "The perspiration sample," Maya said urgently. "Human sweat contains complex biochemical compounds. If Zephyrian brain chemistry is different from ours, those compounds could be acting like a powerful drug." Tom's eyes widened with understanding. A neurological reaction. That would explain the tremors and the dilated pupils. "Silence," Commander Nix ordered. "You will speak only when questioned." The Empress was now being supported by two physicians who looked increasingly worried. Vela's condition continued to deteriorate as her body fought against the unexpected chemical influence. "Your Majesty," one of the physicians said, "we need to move you to the medical wing immediately." But the Empress shook her head with obvious effort. "No," she managed to say. "I will not show weakness before our guests. This will pass." Maya could see that the Empress was wrong. Whatever reaction was happening, it was getting stronger, not weaker. Vela's enhanced sensory awareness was clearly overwhelming her, and the involuntary muscle responses were becoming more pronounced. "Please," Maya called out to Commander Nix. "Let me help. I understand human biochemistry better than anyone. If my samples cause this, I might be able to find a solution." "You have done enough damage," Nix replied coldly. "The humans will be confined until we determine whether this was an accident or an attack." "An attack?" Ambassador Park protested. "We came here in peace." "Then explain why your scientist has poisoned our Empress," Nix demanded. The word poisoned sent a chill through Maya. She realized that from the Zephyrian's perspective, her accident did look like a deliberate attack. The timing was too convenient and the effects too severe. As the guards began to escort the humans away, Maya watched the Empress struggle against her body's rebellion. Vela was clearly a person accustomed to absolute control over herself and her environment. This loss of physical control had to be terrifying for her. "Wait," the Empress said suddenly. Her voice was strained but still carried authority. "Bring the scientist back." Commander Nix hesitated. "Your Majesty, that could be dangerous." "More dangerous than not understanding what is happening to me?" Vela replied. "I need answers." Maya was brought back to stand before the throne, though guards remained close on either side of her. The Empress looked down at her with eyes that seemed to burn with unnatural intensity. "Explain what you think has occurred," Vela commanded. Maya took a deep breath. Human perspiration contains various organic compounds, including pheromones and trace chemicals that affect our own nervous systems in subtle ways. If Zephyrian brain chemistry responds differently to these compounds, they could be acting like a powerful stimulant. "A stimulant?" the Empress asked. "Yes. Something that increases neural activity, enhances sensory perception, and causes involuntary muscle responses. It would be similar to an adrenaline overdose in humans." The Empress considered this explanation. Despite her obvious discomfort, her mind was clearly still sharp. "How long would such effects last?" "That depends on your species' metabolism," Maya admitted. "In humans, similar compounds clear the system within hours. But I don't know how Zephyrian physiology processes foreign chemicals." "Then we wait," the Empress decided. "If your theory is correct, my condition should improve with time." But as the hours passed, it became clear that the Empress's condition was not improving quickly. The royal physicians monitored her constantly, reporting that her neural activity remained elevated and her sensory responses were still hypersensitive. The human delegation was housed in comfortable but secure quarters while they waited. Maya spent the time reviewing everything she knew about the biochemical compounds in her samples. Tom helped her calculate possible reaction pathways and metabolic processes. The concentration was much higher than normal, Maya realized. The sample was concentrated for analysis. A Zephyrian encountering normal human perspiration would probably experience much milder effects. "But still noticeable effects?" Tom asked. "Probably, depending on individual sensitivity and the amount of exposure." Meanwhile, throughout the palace, word of the Empress's condition was spreading. Court officials whispered about possible conspiracies and foreign plots. Some called for the humans to be executed immediately as assassins. Others argued for caution and investigation. Commander Nix found himself in the difficult position of maintaining order, while his leader was incapacitated. He had to make decisions about palace security and diplomatic protocol without clear guidance from the Empress. By evening, the situation had become critical. Reports arrived that neighboring star systems were requesting updates on the Empress's health. Some of the Empire's enemies might see this as an opportunity to attack if they believed. Vela was truly weakened. "We cannot wait any longer," the head physician told Commander Nix. "Her Majesty's condition is stable but unchanged. We need to consider alternative treatments." Nix reluctantly agreed to let Maya examine the Empress more closely. Under heavy guard, Maya was brought to the royal medical suite where Vela lay on a crystal bed, still fighting against her body's responses to the human biochemicals. "Your Majesty," Maya said carefully, "with your permission, I would like to take some readings of your current biological state. It might help us understand how to counteract the effects." The Empress nodded, though the movement seemed to take effort. "Do what you must." Maya used the portable scanners from her research kit to analyze the Empress's vital signs and brain activity. What she saw amazed her. Vela's neural pathways were firing at nearly twice their normal rate, and her sensory processing centers were operating at peak efficiency. "This is incredible," Maya murmured, then caught herself. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I don't mean to sound insensitive." "What did you discover?" Vela asked. "Your brain is processing information faster than I thought possible. Your sensory awareness has increased dramatically. If you could learn to control these effects rather than fight them, you might actually have enhanced capabilities." The Empress's eyes sharpened with interest despite her discomfort. "Enhanced how?" "Faster reaction times, improved pattern recognition, heightened awareness of your environment. It's like your nervous system has been optimized for peak performance." "But I cannot control it," Vela pointed out. "Not yet." Maya agreed. But with practice and the right techniques, you might be able to harness these effects rather than be overwhelmed by them. This conversation was interrupted by urgent news from Commander Nix. Intelligence reports indicated that the Korthak Horde, an aggressive alien faction that had been probing the Empire's borders, was mobilizing their fleet. They believe the Empress is weakened, Nix explained grimly. They see this as an opportunity to strike. Maya felt a chill of guilt. Her accident had not only harmed the Empress but potentially endangered the entire Zephyrian Empire. She had to find a way to help. What if we could replicate the effect in a controlled way? She suggested to Tom later that evening. If we could give Zephyrian warriors enhanced abilities, they could defend against any attack. That's incredibly risky, Tom replied. We barely understand what happened to the Empress. But we're running out of time, Maya pointed out. The Korthak fleet could arrive within days. As Part 1 concluded, Maya realized that her accidental discovery might be the key to saving both the diplomatic mission and the Zephyrian Empire itself. But first, she would need to convince the Empress and her advisors to trust her with an even more dangerous experiment. The fate of two civilizations now hung in the balance, dependent on understanding the strange chemical reaction between human biology and alien physiology. 3 days had passed since the diplomatic incident, and the situation in the Zephyrian palace had grown increasingly tense. Empress Vela remained in her private chambers, struggling to adapt to the overwhelming sensory enhancement that human biochemicals had triggered in her nervous system. Every sound seemed amplified, every light appeared brighter, and her thoughts raced at a speed that made normal conversation difficult. Maya Chen sat in the palace laboratory that Commander Nix had reluctantly provided for her research. Scattered across the crystal tables were dozens of sample containers, analysis equipment, and hastily written notes. She had been working almost without sleep, trying to understand exactly how human perspiration affected Zephyrian physiology. Dr. Tom Rodriguez entered the lab carrying a tray of food. You need to eat something, he said, setting it down beside Maya's workstation. You can't solve this problem if you collapse from exhaustion. Maya rubbed her tired eyes. I'm close to a breakthrough, Tom. The chemical interaction is more complex than I initially thought. Human sweat doesn't just contain one active compound. It's a mixture of at least 6 different substances that work together. What kind of substances? Tom asked, pulling up a chair. Pheromones, trace hormones, organic acids, and several amino acid derivatives, Maya explained. When a Zephyrian inhales them, these compounds bind to specific receptors in their brain tissue. It's like they were designed to enhance neural function, but the effect is too strong when concentrated. Tom studied her notes. So the key is finding the right dosage? Exactly. Too much and the subject becomes overwhelmed like the Empress. Too little and there's no noticeable effect. But somewhere in between, there might be a level that provides enhancement without loss of control. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Nix. The Zephyrian officer looked haggard, his usual composed demeanor showing cracks of stress. Dr. Chen, he said formally, I have disturbing news. Our long-range sensors have detected the Korthak fleet moving toward our border systems. They're advancing faster than we anticipated. Maya felt her stomach drop. How long do we have? Perhaps 2 days before they reach our outer defenses, Nix replied. Our intelligence suggests they believe the Empress is incapacitated. They see this as their chance to strike at the heart of our empire. What about your military? Tom asked. Surely the Zephyrian fleet can defend against them. Nix's expression darkened. The Korthak are savage but effective warriors. Their ships are heavily armed and their tactics are brutal. Under normal circumstances, our forces would be evenly matched. But with the Empress unable to coordinate our defense strategy, we're at a significant disadvantage. Maya stood up abruptly. I have an idea, but it's extremely risky. Speak, Nix commanded. What if we could give your warriors the same enhanced abilities that the Empress is experiencing, but in a controlled way? Faster reflexes, improved awareness, enhanced tactical thinking. It could give your forces the edge they need. Nix stared at her in disbelief. You want to deliberately expose our soldiers to the same substance that has incapacitated our ruler? Not the same concentration, Maya said quickly. I've been working on a diluted formula, something that would provide the benefits without the overwhelming side effects. Absolutely not, Nix said firmly. I will not risk the lives of our warriors on an untested human experiment. Then let me test it first, Maya offered. On myself. Maya, no, Tom protested. We don't know how human physiology would react to a concentrated dose of our own biochemicals. But we can't just do nothing, Maya argued. The Empress is still struggling with uncontrolled effects. Your empire is about to be attacked. If I can prove that a controlled dose is safe and effective, it could save thousands of lives. Before anyone could stop her, Maya grabbed one of the diluted samples she had been preparing. She opened the container and inhaled deeply, taking in a measured dose of the concentrated human perspiration compounds. Maya, Tom shouted, but it was too late. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Maya felt a tingling sensation spreading through her nervous system. Her vision became sharper, colors more vivid. Sounds that had been background noise suddenly became distinct and clear. She could hear conversations from rooms away, the subtle vibrations of the palace's crystalline structure, even the electrical activity of the equipment around her. How do you feel? Tom asked anxiously. Maya turned to look at him and was amazed at how much detail she could perceive. She could see the individual pores in his skin, the microscopic movements of his facial muscles, even the slight dilation of his pupils that indicated his concern. It's incredible, she said softly. Everything is so clear, so precise. I can process information faster than I ever thought possible. But unlike the Empress's experience, Maya felt in control of these enhanced sensations. Her human nervous system seemed better adapted to handle the biochemical changes, perhaps because the compounds were naturally produced by her own species. The key is adaptation, Maya realized. Humans evolved with these compounds in our system. We're naturally resistant to their overwhelming effects. But for Zephyrians who never encountered them before, the reaction is much more intense. Commander Nix watched Maya carefully. You appear to be functioning normally despite the enhancement. Better than normally, Maya said. I can see solutions to problems that would have taken me hours to figure out before. The dosage is crucial, but I think I can create a formula that would work for Zephyrian physiology. Even if you could, Nix said skeptically, we would need volunteers willing to risk their lives on your theory. I'll volunteer, came a voice from the laboratory entrance. Everyone turned to see Empress Vela standing in the doorway. She looked exhausted but determined. Her enhanced senses were clearly still active, as evidenced by the way she flinched slightly at the sound of their voices. Your Majesty, Nix said, rushing to her side. You should be resting. I cannot rest while my empire is under threat, Vela replied. Dr. Chen, explain your proposal in detail. Maya quickly outlined her theory about controlled dosages and their potential military applications. The Empress listened intently, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to grasp the complex biochemical concepts with remarkable speed. You believe this could give our warriors an advantage in combat? Vela asked. Yes, but more than that, Maya said. It could allow for unprecedented coordination and tactical awareness. A military force operating with enhanced neural function could outmaneuver and outthink any conventional enemy. The Empress considered this for a long moment. The risk is enormous. If something goes wrong, we could lose our best soldiers before the battle even begins. With respect, Your Majesty, Maya said, the risk of doing nothing may be even greater. After much deliberation, Empress Vela made her decision. We will conduct a limited trial. Select 5 of our most experienced warriors. If they can successfully adapt to the enhancement, we will consider a larger application. The next several hours were a blur of activity. Maya worked frantically to prepare individual doses while Tom monitored the volunteers' reactions. The 5 Zephyrian warriors who had volunteered were among the elite of the Royal Guard, chosen for their mental discipline and physical conditioning. The first volunteer was Captain Rex, a veteran of dozens of battles. As he inhaled the controlled dose of human biochemicals, Maya watched his vital signs carefully. His neural activity spiked initially, but then stabilized at a level significantly higher than baseline. Captain, how do you feel? Commander Nix asked. Rex blinked several times, then looked around the room with obvious amazement. Sir, I can perceive details I never noticed before. The structure of the crystal walls, the electrical patterns in the equipment, even the subtle changes in everyone's breathing patterns. Can you move normally? Maya asked. Rex stood and walked across the room with fluid grace. Then without warning, he suddenly spun and caught a stylus that Tom had accidentally knocked off the table. The movement was so fast that the others barely saw it happen. "My reflexes have definitely improved," Rex said with a slight smile. The other 4 volunteers showed similar results. Each experienced enhanced sensory perception, faster reaction times, and improved cognitive processing. More importantly, they all retained full control over their abilities. The difference between their reaction and yours, "Your Majesty," Maya explained to the Empress, "is the concentration and the method of exposure." They received a precisely measured dose through controlled inhalation. "You were exposed to a much higher concentration through direct contact with the broken sample." Empress Vela nodded slowly. "Then perhaps it is time for me to try a controlled dose as well." Maya prepared a carefully measured sample for the Empress. This time, instead of accidental exposure, Vela deliberately inhaled the diluted compounds under controlled conditions. The change was remarkable. Within minutes, the Empress's uncontrolled tremors stopped. Her hypersensitive reactions to sound and light became manageable. Most importantly, she retained all the enhanced capabilities while regaining her characteristic poise and control. "This is extraordinary," Vela said, her voice once again carrying its usual authority. "I feel as though I can see the solution to problems before they fully form in my mind." But their breakthrough was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the palace. The Korthak fleet had arrived ahead of schedule and was already engaging the outer defense systems. "Your Majesty," came a voice over the communication system, "the enemy fleet consists of over 200 ships. They're advancing on 3 fronts simultaneously." Empress Vela's enhanced mind immediately began processing tactical possibilities. "Commander Nix, how many of our pilots and tactical officers could we safely enhance before the main battle begins?" "Perhaps 50 of our best if we work quickly," Nix replied. "Do it," the Empress commanded. "Dr. Chen, can you prepare enough doses?" "Already working on it," Maya said, her own enhanced abilities allowing her to calculate dosages and prepare samples at incredible speed. The next few hours were a race against time. As the Korthak fleet pressed closer to the planet, Maya and Tom worked to enhance key members of the Zephyrian military. Pilots reported dramatically improved reaction times and spatial awareness. Tactical officers found they could process battle data and coordinate fleet movements with unprecedented precision. Empress Vela took personal command of the defense from the palace war room. Her enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to track dozens of battle scenarios simultaneously while coordinating the responses of her enhanced commanders. Korthak, assault group approaching from Sector 7, reported an enhanced tactical officer. "But I can see a weakness in their formation. If we adjust our defensive pattern by 15 degrees and concentrate fire on their lead ship, we can create a cascade failure in their attack formation." "Execute," the Empress commanded. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The enhanced Zephyrian forces moved with perfect coordination, anticipating enemy tactics and responding with strategies that seemed almost supernatural in their effectiveness. Korthak ships that had expected to face conventional resistance instead encountered defenders who could predict their movements and counter their attacks before they were even fully committed. Enhanced Zephyrian pilots flew their ships with reflexes so fast that they seemed to dance through enemy fire. "This is impossible," came intercepted communications from the Korthak fleet. "How are they anticipating our every move?" The tide of battle turned decisively when Empress Vela, using her enhanced strategic thinking, identified the command ship hidden within the Korthak formation. A precisely coordinated strike by enhanced pilots eliminated the enemy leadership, throwing their entire fleet into chaos. Within 6 hours of the first engagement, the Korthak fleet was in full retreat. What should have been a desperate defensive battle had become a legendary victory that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. As the last enemy ships fled the system, Maya found herself standing beside Empress Vela in the war room. Both women were exhausted but exhilarated by what they had accomplished. "Dr. Chen," the Empress said, "your accidental discovery has saved my empire. But more than that, it has shown us possibilities we never imagined." "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now we build something new," Vela replied. "An alliance between our peoples based not on trade or military cooperation, but on the fundamental enhancement of what we can achieve together." Over the following days, as news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, delegations from dozens of star systems arrived to understand how the Zephyrians had achieved such an impossible triumph. The answer, they learned, lay in the partnership between human biochemistry and alien physiology. A joint research station was established in orbit around Zephyria Prime, where scientists from both species could study the enhancement effects safely and develop new applications. The facility became a symbol of what could be achieved when different forms of life worked together instead of competing. Maya found herself appointed as the director of biological research, working closely with Zephyrian scientists to understand the full implications of their discovery. They learned that the enhancement effects could be tailored for different purposes: improved reflexes for pilots, enhanced pattern recognition for engineers, or increased cognitive processing for scientists and strategists. The remarkable thing, Maya explained to a gathering of galactic ambassadors, is that this discovery happened purely by accident. It makes me wonder what other unexpected synergies might exist between different species. Empress Vela, who had become Maya's closest collaborator, nodded in agreement. Perhaps the future of galactic civilization lies not in the dominance of any single species, but in discovering how our biological differences can complement each other. The alliance between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire became the foundation for a new kind of interstellar cooperation. Other species began sharing their own unique biological properties, leading to discoveries that benefited everyone involved. Captain Rex, who had been among the first volunteers for enhancement, established a training program for pilots from various species. The key, he explained to his students, is learning to work with enhancement rather than fighting against it. Every species responds differently, but the principles remain the same. Tom Rodriguez became the head of interspecies biological compatibility research, developing protocols for safe cross-species biochemical interactions. His work prevented numerous diplomatic incidents and opened new avenues for cooperation. As for Maya and Empress Vela, they spent their days in the research station laboratory, pushing the boundaries of what was possible when human and Zephyrian capabilities were combined. The Empress had learned to modulate her enhancement levels consciously, allowing her to govern her empire with unprecedented wisdom while maintaining her personal relationships with normal sensitivity. "You know," Vela said one day as they reviewed their latest research data, "when you first stumbled in my throne room, I thought it was the worst possible beginning to our diplomatic relationship." Maya laughed. "I was certain I had ruined everything. The whole human race's first impression was me falling over and spilling samples everywhere. Instead, you gave us something far more valuable than any formal treaty could provide," the Empress replied. "You showed us that our limitations are not fixed, that we can become more than what we were born to be." The story concluded with Maya standing at the observation deck of the research station, looking down at the crystal cities of Zephyria Prime. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went, carrying diplomats, scientists, and traders who were all part of the new galactic community that had grown from her accidental discovery. She thought about how a simple mistake had changed the course of history, how a moment of clumsiness had led to the greatest advancement in interspecies cooperation the galaxy had ever seen. Ambassador Park joined her at the observation window. "Any regrets about how things turned out?" she asked. Maya smiled as she watched an enhanced Zephyrian pilot guide a human transport ship to the landing platform with impossible precision. "None at all. Sometimes the best discoveries come from the most unexpected places." In the distance, another ship was approaching the station. This one carried representatives from the Altarian Collective, who had heard about the human-Zephyrian partnership and wanted to explore what unique contributions their silicon-based biology might offer to the Alliance. The future stretched ahead full of possibilities, built on the foundation of trust, cooperation, and the amazing discovery that sometimes what makes species different is exactly what makes them stronger together.